I'm Victoria Jordan Rodriguez, Director of House Operations and House Events for James Beard Foundation. We are here in James Beard's former home showing you how to make his braised salmon and red wine. So the first step that I wanted to show you today is how to clean a leek. This leek has been trimmed, so it used to have a very long top, and what I'm going to do is pull off all of these sort of tougher outer leaves, and I'm going to dip it in water, and then I'm going to cut it down the center, giving you two sides like this. And this lets you get inside all of the little leaves because these can be really, really sandy. So your first step is going to be to find a pot that's big enough for the salmon that you have. There's nothing worse than getting started with a recipe and having the wrong size pot on the stove. We're going to melt our butter here in this nice big pot, and to that we're going to add thinly sliced onions, parsley, as well as the leeks that we've just cut, and the carrots and the celery. And this is going to be the flavoring for the poaching liquid for our fish. So our vegetables have been cooking for about 5 minutes. They're getting really aromatic and they're releasing some of their water. What I'm going to do now is season both sides of the salmon with salt, and just salt, and then I'm going to add each piece to my pot, skin side down, arranging them so that they each have a nice place to lay down. So like all braises, I'm going to be adding my braising liquid, and it's going to come just up to halfway on the protein that you're braising. So in this case, it's just halfway up the salmon. We're using just an inexpensive red wine. It is something good enough to drink. It's not something that I wouldn't drink, but it certainly isn't the most expensive wine. And James Beard, coming from Oregon, definitely would have loved salmon, and he definitely would have been using a lot of Pinot Noir, since that's a very famous grape in that region. So before we put our salmon in a 300-degree oven for about a half an hour to cook, we're going to add this piece of parchment paper over the fish and the vegetables. This is part of James Beard's recipe. We're using a stout pot today, so it actually has these little dots that brings the moisture back down into the fish. But in this case, the parchment paper is going to be doing basically the same thing. So we'll clamp our lid down and put it in the oven. So we're going to start the garnish for our salmon dish. And you can of course garnish with whatever vegetables you have on hand. James Beard suggested some sauteed mushrooms and ground pearl onions, which are excellent if they're done in butter. You do want to end up with pearl onions that look like this by taking off all of the papery outer layers, and put a couple of tablespoons of butter into a hot pan, and then you're going to add your onions once that butter has melted to get them nice and brown. Okay, so while our onions are browning in this pan, we're going to use a separate pan for the mushrooms. It's going to be tempting to put it all in one pan, but if you do this particular garnish, you do want to cook them separately. They cook at separate rates, and the mushrooms are going to release a lot of water once they start cooking. So this butter is going to melt, and the mushrooms are going to be added there. And now that the onions have started to get a little brown, I'm going to put the lid on them and lower the temperature so they cook through. Our fish is out of the oven. It is completely cooked. Our vegetables are cooked, and now we're just going to plate by gently lifting the fish out of the pot. It's okay if you grab some of those vegetables. You can certainly garnish with some of the vegetables from the pot, as well as the vegetables that you browned yourself. And there you have it. James Beard's poached salmon and red wine.